Okay, so again, this is the pre-proposal conference for the Joe Louis Greenway Bridge improvements. I'm going to share my screen. Okay, and hopefully everyone can see that. Okay. So we have representatives here from, we have Mr. Dave Tovar and his team. They are the project managers over the Joe Louis Greenway project. They will be able to speak to a little bit about the scope of work and what the expectations are. I'm gonna do an overview of the pre-proposal process, and then we'll open the floor for questions and answers. As I mentioned before, this meeting is being recorded, and I would ask that you add your company that you represent next to your name in your profile. We're encouraging all questions. However, the responses that you get during this session will not be binding. If you are looking for a binding response, we are requesting that you upload your questions in the Oracle supplier portal, and that way we can respond back with the responses back through Oracle, so everyone has visibility to the same information. This proposal was advertised on January 27th. The question deadline is February 12th at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. The due date for this proposal is February 27th at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Please ensure that your supplier profile is set up in Eastern Standard Time. Otherwise, it's quite possible that you could be in the Pacific Standard Time or Mountain Standard Time, and you will end up submitting your proposal late, and we will unfortunately not be able to accept it. If you need assistance navigating through Oracle, or if you are a vendor that is not registered in the Oracle system, I will include in the chat our e-procurement team contacts that will assist you in navigating and uploading your information in Oracle. They also are available to assist with registration as well as invoicing or any other thing involving the Oracle system. So their information will be in the chat for your visibility. This project is funded through the American Rescue Plan Act. What that is 1.9 trillion federal stimulus dollars were disbursed to various cities within the United States to help communities offset some of the shortfalls of COVID-19. What that means to you as bidders is that because we follow federal guidelines, no equalization or local preferences are allowed in the proposals. This is a proposal that we're requesting, so we are going off of more than just pricing. A list of the evaluation criteria is in the RFP. Just to kind of mention minimum qualifications for us to consider your proposal, we are looking for respondents that can demonstrate a minimum of 5 years experience with bridge building and or bridge rehabilitation, and you identify that your qualifications through your references that you provide. We also require that you've been in business for a minimum of 5 years. So we do a LORA check, and we do a SAM.gov check as well. Your proposals will be evaluated based off of experience from your organization, capacity, your work plan and or schedule, and of course, pricing. At this time, I'd like to turn this pre-proposal meeting over to our subject matter experts. Dave, if you'd like to start.
Sure. Hi, I'm David Tobar. I'm the construction administrator for the General Services Department in the Joe Louis Greenway project. So just a kind of a high cap overview. The city acquired about 10 miles of former railroad corridor, and we're actively, with these funds, converting it into essentially a pathway system for bikes and pedestrians. We're actively from this year forward through 2026, we're on a fast track to construct about 8 miles of this former railroad corridor. Within this corridor, there were two bridges, existing bridges, one over Lodge and one over Woodward. So those are the two bridges in question for this package. And essentially, obviously, Woodward's an older bridge and the Lodge a little more recent. And but we're essentially converting them from a railroad purpose into a pedestrian purpose. So with that, I don't know, Scott or Bob, if you want to talk about each of the bridges, and essentially the scope, but to get into some of the details. But the drawings, they definitely break down and go into the scope. The wood or the Lodge portion, obviously, since it's over an active freeway, has a bit more MOT associated with it than Woodward. Woodward also have things related to special events throughout the city. So just be mindful of that in your proposals. So Scott or Bob?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, David. Is it okay if I share my screen for a minute?
Please.
All right, so I'll just start and try to keep this kind of brief, just kind of going over the overall improvements, and then Bob will speak to just kind of the structural rehab portions of it for each bridge. As David mentioned, we're looking at the two bridges at Lodge and Woodward, so pretty close proximity to each other. I'm going to skip over to the proposed plans for the trail. So there is a concrete pathway going over top of Lodge once the rehab work is completed. In conjunction with this is railing improvements and lighting improvements. The lighting would be consistent with the rest of the Joe Louis Greenway. And the limits of the site work is really pretty much confined to both edges of the bridge itself. We're actually limiting right at the face of this wall here on the left side, and not doing any work on Rosa Parks. So really just focused on through this bridge stretch here, and then just to the east for the Lodge. And then
real quick, Scott, at that, if you go back, I do want to point out immediately east of the bridge, we do own that land, and essentially it's maybe about an acre. So for staging for that would be available for your teams to stage and operate within there. We also land on the west side of Rosa Parks, but I imagine it'd be much simpler and you'd be a much more controlled position on the west or the east side of the bridge. But I'll leave staging up to you. But that's kind of the opportunities for staging for construction.
Thanks, David. That's a great point. Bob, do you want to speak to kind of the structural repairs for Lodge before we move over to Woodward?
Sure. Yeah, it's pretty much basic rehab. There's some concrete patching on the pier substructure. We're not doing anything at either abutment because they're part of the retaining wall system that's through that stretch of the Lodge Freeway. So there is some patching, like I said, at the pier that will occur. So therefore that freeway MOT will need to be in place for that. Then it's going to get a concrete surface coating according to the plans and the schedule, painting in there. And then the steel superstructure, pretty much the same thing. It's there's no structural steel repairs called for, but we are looking for painting on the outside of the fascia girders and the bottoms of all the, and up the flanges for a certain height. And it's detailed on the drawings, the extent of the limits of the painting. And there's a schedule of paint colors that we're looking at for the painting on this bridge. And then as far as within the deck for the placement of the concrete surface, there'll be some excavation of the top material. There's a lot of weeds and growth up in there, and I believe there's some concrete blocks that are sitting in there that'll need to be removed. But the basic use of the existing ballast will be there. And then, as you can see in the cross section, got a geotextile separator, and then some subsurface or subgrade build up for the concrete sidewalk to sit on. And then, as Scott mentioned, railings will be adapted to fit on the existing tops of the girders on either side. There's existing fencing there now that'll be removed, and a new fence will be put in there, but the posts we have it detailed to fit on top of the top flange that matches the layout for from the existing fencing that's there.
Great, thanks, Bob. So we can move over to Woodward Bridge. This one is a bit more complicated and complex. The intent here is that it's not just a space to travel through. There's some gathering and seating space for folks if they want to take a brief respite as they're on the trail. And then this structure is also a lot more ornate, and there's more architectural elements, more detail here, as well as lighting and electrical components are much more detailed for this bridge. Bob, do you want to touch before we keep going on the kind of the rehab here?
Yeah, the rehab here is going to be more extensive. The steel superstructure is there. Most of it is in fair to good shape, and we're looking to have it cleaned and coated, similar to what's being called for over on the Lodge Bridge, as far as the fascia girders and the bottom flanges of the interior girders or floor beams here. The big item, if anything, is the concrete repairs at the abutments. You'll see it's kind of a pass-through type abutment. You've got a sidewalk that actually travels under a portion of the abutment comprised of the back wall to the one side of the sidewalk, and then there's like a pier of sorts, a multi-column pier on the roadside, and they're both are, well, and the piers probably more so are fairly extensive rehabilitation as far as removal of concrete and patching of the concrete surfaces as well. It's kind of identified. It's a typical MDOT type of concrete rehab where we've kind of identified the area. We've got some identified quantities on the plans in the quantity box, but it's one of those things that as you get into it, there could be a little more concrete removal that needs to be taken care of to get to the sound concrete criteria. But it'll be the same way at both abutments. And then once they're finished with all the patching, then they both receive concrete surface coating as well. The railing on the tops of the top railing, the existing top railing, is going to be rehabilitated, and that shows up. We provided a bunch of the existing plans as possible, and we have the typical details for patching. See there. Oh wait, I'm sorry. There's Okay, there's two elements of railing. If you look at this cross section, this bridge has maintenance walkways from when it was used as a railroad bridge. So you have this somewhat cantilevered walkway on either side, maintenance walkway. We're not allowing necessarily to have pedestrians using these walkways as part of the pathway system. So they are closed at either end, but to retain kind of the historical look of the bridge, there are repairs to that outside rail that's noted, remove and replace bottom rails there. So there's work at that railing, and then on top of the top flange, we're adding a new smaller rail on top just to gain proper heights for safety reasons. So you have both the inside rail and the outside rail to contend with. The outside rail is existing, that's to be kind of rehabilitated. And then all of that will get painted along with the structural steel girders.
All right, thanks, Bob. So I'll touch on the kind of the site improvements for this bridge. First thing I do want to note is we are raising up the grade here from what's existing to try and get kind of a better view shed out over Woodward, which then requires that handrail to be included there. I am going to bounce back to the site layout plan. I think it's kind of the best overview of the limits, you know, essentially extending roughly 30 feet on both sides of the bridge itself with that new concrete pathway. Within this layout, there's seating areas, this timber stacked bench, Joe Louis Greenway signage, and then planters as well. And then in conjunction with this is a pretty extensive lighting components, including the Greenway path lighting, and then some other elements that I'll show on upcoming plan sheet. I do want to note that this concrete space does have a very specific JLG concrete scoring pattern that'll be implemented as part of this to be consistent with the rest of the Greenway. And there are improvements at the actual Woodward Street level as well. They include removal and replacement of concrete sidewalk, and then the addition of impact attenuator on it'd be the northbound and southbound lanes. So you can see those here. Railing is consistent with work, you know, beyond the two railings that are on the bridge itself. We get back to this welded wire fence rail to really protect users on those concrete wing walls that extend beyond the bridge. And then to the lighting improvements. I think this sheet probably shows it kind of best. So there's a number of different lighting elements that are being integrated. There's these historic facade lights that there's 4 of them that will be replaced. There is an uplight that runs at the base of the steel girder here to really kind of highlight the bridge. And then there's downlights on the wing walls at the 4 corners. In addition to that, there's the standard ped poles, which are on top of the bridge. And then through each of the pedestrian underpasses on each side, there's a couple of ceiling lights that are integrated as well. David, I do want to just confirm one thing for everyone. I know we show some of the murals. Did you end up including those in this package, or is that going to be separate?
It's separate.
Okay, so thanks for confirming. Just so everyone's aware, we do have kind of the base paint color that is intended to be part of the long-term mural plan. So essentially, for instance, this right side that says "Let's Ride," our plan includes painting it that kind of off-white color, but the mural would be done at a later date, separate contract. And then the same for the lodge. There is some lighting here highlighting this mural that'll be done at a later date, but included in the contract would be the base paint color for this section as well as the rest of the sections of this bridge. All right, I think that about covers it. So I'll turn it back over to you, Kelly.
Okay, thank you very much. So at this time, I'd like to open the floor for any questions. You're more than welcome to either put it in the chat, raise your hand, or you can unmute yourself and just shout it out.
This is Andy O'Connor with CA Hull. I see you have two separate Excel bid forms, one for each structure. For the price component, will they be scored together? Or is there a chance you would only have funds to do one but not the other?
So for purposes of the evaluation and pricing, we will score them together. It will be a combined amount. Now, once the contract, we decide to move forward with the awardee in the contract, there may be deviations to that, or we may have a contract for both, but we may only utilize one portion of it at this time.
Yeah, I do want to add, because of the complexity and the layers of the grants associated with this, the bridges in particular, since the Woodward Bridge is in Highland Park and the Lodge Bridge is in the city of Detroit, it helps us with our funding sources too. So it makes it much easier as we administrate and basically pay your bills, that we know what aspect is coming from what. So we do have a pot from Wayne County, which will help us pay for the Woodward Bridge, and we have a pot from actually the state that'll help pay for the Lodge Bridge. So it helps us.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
I see Mike, he always has a question.
I don't have no questions, Kelly, thanks.
I do want to point out, let me share my screen real quick. Okay, so I talked about the lodge and the staging. This is the Woodward. And timing wise, again, there is opportunity on both sides of the bridge to get up at grade sorry, let me pan out a little bit, from the east and from the west, but it is a much longer approach. So, you from the west, you're coming from Second, and Oakland is probably closer, maybe 3/4 of a mile to the east. So a little bit more challenging, but from a square footage standpoint, you have this elongated space to kind of stage in, and you'll have access to that from there. We are working on an agreement to acquire this parcel from this face of building. We're pretty darn close to completing that, and likely, even if we don't finish the completion, you'll be able to access. We're going to create a ramp that'll get down from the Greenway down into Woodward, so to get us up to this bridge. So the likelihood of providing construction equipment to be able to drive up this ramp and come up here is, you guys would be able to take advantage of that. So I would plan on that. Okay. Again, this is in Highland Park, but both and the lodges in City of Detroit, but both are within the MDOT right away. So we are in process of securing those MDOT permits, and so we'll work with you to procure those permits once they're ready.
Did we
This
have
is
any
Andy
other
with,
questions? Go ahead. I'm sorry, Andy.
oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, so regarding the MDOT maintenance of traffic requirements, do they list those in the in this proposal, or are they still reviewing them? And, ultimately the biggest thing is on the Lodge Freeway, when can we pull singles or double lane closures? Similar on Woodward.
Yep.
Yeah, we have some clarification into them right now on that specifically, and we're hoping to have feedback from them, within the next week, and we'd be able to issue an addendum right after the due date for questions to clarify that.
Yeah, so our first pass is in the drawings you have, but they do have comments as of last week, and we're updating that. So you expect some updates to that.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Okay.
Any additional questions? Okay, again, I just want to reiterate that you must be registered as a vendor with the city of Detroit. I have Cedric McCree and Tracy Thompson's name and contact information in the chat that will be able to assist you. This bid does close on February the 27th at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Our question due date is February 12th at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. All questions that were answered today are unbinding. If you're looking for a binding response, please upload your questions through the Oracle Supplier Portal, and then we will get you those responses back in a formal addendum with those responses. If I don't have any other questions, well, I'd like to thank you all for your attendance. And if you, like I said, if you have any questions, please feel free to upload those in Oracle. And this would conclude this pre-proposal conference. Thank you, everybody. Have a great day.
Thank you, Kelly.
Thank you.
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 Hey, Kelly, you said the 27th, right? Hi.
Yes.
Okay, I just want to make sure I sent me and Dave a calendar invite. Thank you.
Yep. February 27th. I didn't send you guys the RFP?
Oh, it was probably in there. I just want to make
Okay,
sure I heard you
okay.
clearly.
Listen, I've been a little crazy. So
No.
I don't know if I did it or not.
I think you did. I just had my
If
calendar
not,
open now.
if not, if you need it, not a problem. I can resend it or let me know.
Okay, I'll
Just
double
so
check.
just so you have it. All right then. Well,
All right.
thanks a lot.
Thanks,
Have
Kelly.
a good one.
You too. Bye.
Bye.